Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank, a monthly conversation amongst Prince Hall Freemasons where we discuss topics relative to craft masonry. My name is Brother Antonio Caffey, and I'm a very proud past master of St. Mark's Lodge number 7, located in Columbus, Ohio, where presently Worshipful Brother Charles Anderson serves as our worshipful master. My lodge was granted a charter in the year of 1852 by the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio, where presently the Honorable Mario D. Powell serves as our most worshipful Grand Master. Before I let the other brothers introduce themselves, as always, I would like to state that the views and opinions that are expressed by us this evening do not reflect the views and opinions of the lodges and Grand Lodges in which we hold membership in. Also, if you have not already done so, please like and subscribe to our YouTube page so that you can stay up to date with the Prince Hall Think Tank. At this time, I'll let the brothers introduce themselves, starting out with Brother Gillon.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Past Dave Gillard. I'm a member of Mount Pisgah Lodge number 53, where Dwight Gatson serves as our worshipful master. And I also have the pleasure of serving as the grand historian of the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Georgia, where the Honorable Primus C. James serves as our worshipful grand master. You got to excuse me. We have, at True Think Tank Fash, we have some technical difficulties. So I can hear everything I'm saying after I say it. So the echo is being padded in my headset.
That's all right, good brother. Brother Jack.
Good evening to all. Brother Damian Jack, proud past master of Paul Drayton Lodge number 7, where worshipful brother Maurice Williams serves as our worshipful master. Our lodge is a constituent lodge under the auspices of the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of North Carolina, where the Honorable James C. Russell serves as our 25th most worshipful Grand Master. And I have the honor and pleasure of serving as worshipful assistant Grand Lecturer at Large. It's an honor and pleasure to be before you this evening, and looking forward for a great show.
Thank you, brothers, and thank you all for joining us this evening. So, from the earliest days of Prince Hall Freemasonry, our progress has been guided not only by ritual and fellowship, but by the written word. So tonight, we start a series where we turn our attention to those brothers who influenced the craft through print. Those whose words educated lodges, informed leaders, and continues to speak across time. So, without further ado, Dave, who will we be discussing this evening? You on mute.
All right, you can hear me okay? All right. So the person I'll be discussing tonight is brother Floyd Bass. Um, so about a decade ago or so, I received some past editions of the Flax's magazine. I started reading through them. And one of the brothers that I saw that caught my attention was a brother named Dr. Floyd Lester Bass. Uh, Dr. Bass was a highly educated man. He was one of those men that was starting to write about those Prince Hall Masons that write about esoteric masonry. And, that was kind of unheard of to have a lot of, other than like maybe past Grandmaster Howard Woods during that time frame. There was a couple of others, but it seemed like Brother Floyd Bass was kind of one of the brothers that kind of flew under the radar, or maybe his legacy had been kind of forgotten about. So, Dr. Bass was born August 11th, 1921, in Sullivan, Indiana. He was a veteran and served in the Navy. And then he obtained a Bachelor of Science degree and his master's degree from Indiana State, Indiana State Teachers University, which is now Indiana State University. He obtained a doctorate education from the University of Colorado. If you look at old newspapers and you enter in Dr. Bass's name, especially during that roughly that time frame that he got his doctorate, one thing that was constantly advertised is that he used the United Negro College Fund to actually pay for his education. He served as dean of Lemoyne College in Memphis, and he also served as a dean in Alabama State College, which is now Alabama State University. Um, from there, he moved to North Carolina, where he served as director of student teaching at North Carolina College, now at NC Central University. So one of the things that he would do there, like he would help mentor students as they pursued their higher education. So Dr. Bass was also heavily involved in the civil rights movement, um, and it was stated because of this he was recruited to come to the University of Connecticut. University of Connecticut was looking to do some newer things, and they want to start a Black Studies department. So they brought him there. He becomes the first director of the Black Studies at the University of Connecticut, which later changed its name to the African American Studies. They roughly had about 25 different courses related to African American studies. As far as his Masonic membership, I haven't been able to verify his lodge. My hunch is that he was a member of Ionic Lodge number 7 under the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Connecticut. He was a past patron of Elected Chapter number 7 under the Prince Hall Grand Chapter of Connecticut. And the reason why I was believed that he might have been a member of Ionic Lodge is because that was the lodge that was located in the exact same city of the chapter that he was a member of. Um, and so I'm trying to reach out to the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Connecticut to verify, but as of right now, that's my hunch. That's what lodge he was a member of. He also served as the General Conference Grand Most Worthy Joshua of the General Conference of Grand Courts Harris of Jericho Prince Hall affiliation. He was a 33rd a member of the United Supreme Council of Northern Jurisdiction, and he was also a member of the Flaxen Society. Dr. Bass was also a member of a lot more Masonic organizations. He held a lot of titles. I just didn't want to get through all of those right now. Um, Dr. Bass seemed like he was a highly educated man. Um, and he was a very um, influential writer. So he would teach young students. He would be a guest speaker for a lot of different occasions, whether it be churches, mentoring young kids. And then he also got asked by a local newspaper, the Courier, where he would write 2 articles per month on items related to Black history. And so there are tons of articles during this time frame where he was talking about different things, different people that you probably wouldn't have maybe have gotten forgotten about in Black history, but one and some that you probably do know, like past Grandmaster Benjamin Hooks. He wrote about him in that newspaper. He talked about Martin Delany. He talked about Martin Luther King Jr. He talked about some of everything related to Black history. He also wrote articles where he talked about the Negro National Anthem, how that made him feel, stuff that he felt like our people should know and they should be proud to be Black. So he was trying to influence people through his education, through his, I guess, outside of his Masonic career to help further their education. But now, when it comes to Masonry, um, he in 1987, Dr. Bass wrote a masterpiece article. This article is roughly about 12 pages long. It is very in depth. This article is so extensive that it had to be covered in 2 separate editions of the Flax's magazine. So one thing that he talked about is something that affects all of us and something that you all may be able to relate to as well. He was highlighting the importance of providing programs and schools of instructions for future leaders. So, like, how many times have you seen a person get elected worship master, high priest, thrice illustrious master, eminent commander, or whatever position, and they don't really know how to teach when they get there? Um, and what he was saying was, we have these schools of instructions, we have all this other stuff, but we don't have anything that's directed to teaching the people that's going to teach other people. and he would refer to them as scholar instructors. And he was saying that these scholar instructors need to be proficient in all aspects of Freemasonry. They need to understand how to properly research things. They need to know how to share their findings with an unbiased interpretation. So he always, because since he was so highly educated, he saw these other avenues of and saw masonry being so instrumental to different walks of life that he wanted these people, wanted all of us to be educated as well. And he said it starts with educating our leaders. And as for the military personnel out there that might be watching this, it's the same concept of train the trainer. If we train the people that's going to be leading other people, that stuff is going to continue on, and you will stop the cycle of electing people to different positions who may not be ready for it, and they're not ready to teach um, when they get there. So that kind of ends my presentation on Dr. Bass. Um, he's one of the people he's written numerous articles, and yeah, he's written numerous articles, and every article is always the focus is educating people, learning, writing, and using those tools, using those sources. And he lists in this masterpiece article, I can't even begin to count how many different sources that he used um, to help write that article. But he was determined to for our people to provide some type of platform so that our leaders can be educated, so they can educate our people.
Thanks, Dave. So again, this is a series that we were going to use to just highlight particular authors throughout history, because and it's one thing that you know when we think about Freemasonry, particularly Prince Hall Freemasonry, know about Brother Wesley, we know about Brother Walks and things they done, but there been a number of brothers throughout the years that have done some extensive research and writing when it comes to the topic of Freemasonry, and it really I love when I see brothers even to this day, continuing that tradition of writing, and carrying on. It's nothing new, but to see that the amount of material that's currently coming out, is amazing. Seeing, if you really put it into the context of Prince Hall Freemasonry. As you all know, we're staring at a brother right now on this show that's prolific when it comes to putting out, just various materials and Masonic books. Um, I think it seems like it's almost like every other month he's just pumping them out, pumping them out, pumping them out. But I think it just, again, I look at that, and you have to put things. I always say, historical context is important because it can really help you appreciate, a lot of things that, you may have a little appreciation for it if you just look at it in and of itself. But if you put it into that historical context, it really gives you an appreciation for the work that's been put in. So yeah, I mean, and along those lines, it's I'm always interested in, like, Damien, if you could just comment right quick, like your thought process or the process that you use when it comes to, writing about the craft.
Normally, I'll be perfectly honest. A lot of the topics that I come up that I end up coming up with come from this usual conversation, conversation that um, the three of us had, um, just main conversation, and something would speak to my spirit, and it would just allow me to go in that direction. Or if I'm watching something, um, for example, I think the latest article that I did was on the movie Him, the Jordan Peele movie Him, and just watching that and being able to just looking with the different set of eyes and wow, okay, I can pull from this scene, or I can pull from this quote, and you know, this is how it refers to to masonry. So let me write this down. I'll be honest. I say ever since I came into masonry, I don't look or listen to things the same. Um, uh, prime example. I was with my mom one time, and she was watching the classic movie to The Wiz, and so I hadn't seen that movie for years, and I think all of you can relate to how when we watch a movie at a certain age or at a certain mental capacity, and then we go back and we watch it again, there's something that we catch later that we didn't catch, when we watched it in the beginning. So I was watching it's like I said, I was watching The Wiz, and I remember um there was the point where they went into Dorothy and them, they went into um this club, and they pretty much they got messed up. I think it was like Poppy something, I forget the name. And so the lion, he was messed up. He felt some type of way. He said he was upset because he felt that he led them in the wrong direction, and he was getting ready to jump off the roof, and they was trying to save him. And the next thing you know, he yells out, he's like, no, no, let me scatter into the four winds. And it hit me, and I heard that, and it hit me. I was like, did he just say that? Like wow. And so of course, my mom, being my mom's like what happened? What's wrong? I was like, don't worry about it. You're not going to get it. But just from that, that part made me go into writing a lecture just off of that, or even our good brother, God rest his soul, past master Mark Alexander. Um, I remember he sent a text in the group, um, one time, and it was about preparing for what happens after this life, and the way he worded it was it made you think, and it allowed me to go into a lecture that I called the uncomfortable conversation. And I remember the first time I gave that lecture was actually in the jurisdiction of New York, and Mark was there, and I gave him his flowers, and I said, look, this is influence from a conversation that was had. So if you like it, give him kudos. If you don't like it, blame him. But that's usually where it goes into, as far as my writing is concerned. And an idea will spark from various avenues, and it just gets me to researching, and because it's all about, when we talk about masonry, we talk about how to apply it to our daily living. So that has always been my mantra, of taking what we've learned, and how to apply it, and how you can see things in different ways, and how to apply it to our daily living. I just finished rewatching the movie The Kingdom, Jamie Foxx movie that's almost 20 years old, and there was one scene that I took from there, where brother talked about, taking into his job, that when he starts his job, no matter what, is going to end, and he goes into that mindset. And I thought about that, as far as leadership, and where I said, the first day is already the last day. So, things like that makes me, think about certain things, and write it down, and share it with everybody. So
Yeah, and and one thing I think that you said, I mean, like everything you said was on point. One of the things that jumped out to me was the whole, and we've mentioned it on the show before, how just masonry in relationship to like or relation to your life and what masonry is and the study of self and all of that. And I think if we really understood that, um, brothers and sisters, just folks in the craft and the order would like understand that, like, look, you don't have to be this world renowned scholar to write, really, because if you're writing about a certain aspect of your life is your life. So how you put those things, what you may be going through and how you can relate that to a certain aspect within the lodge, be it a certain, symbolism, certain, just aspect of the lodge, before you know it, you can come up with a 10 or 15-minute lecture. You put enough of those lectures together a lot of times, and if you really go back and you look at a lot of the older Masonic books, they were really like a series of lectures that a brother may have given, and then just put it together. And so I think it's the sometimes a lot of us are under the assumption that, don't get me wrong, like there's a great deal of scholarship that's done when you're talking about, like, researching certain historical happenings within the craft and then citing those, making sure that you're using the correct sources and talking about that. But I think a lot of it, and that's one aspect of Freemasonry that I really, really, and if I'm being completely honest, I didn't realize it until much further in my membership, where I was like, hold on, this isn't, this is really, it's my, the, the lodge gives you a baseline to look at certain things and then apply it to your particular life. And again, because we all have different lives and going through different things at particular times, um, it may it may look different. My working tools, I may apply my working tools differently than you do because of what we're going through. So all of those things that and one thing, and again, you may not even realize this. When I was privileged to serve in the East as worshipful master in my lodge, I created a diary where, like, after each meeting, I just jotted down, like before each meeting and after each meeting, I just jotted down my thoughts about how I felt the meeting went. And like all these years later, it's real funny to look back at that year. But then I was reviewing it the other week, and I said, you know what? I could really turn this into something. If I added a few things here, um, took out some things because not everyone needs to know my lodge's business. Like I was real candid when I wrote stuff down. I'm like, they don't need to know that. But it's those type of things that, like, you can do, and I think people would be interested in hearing your thoughts, on it. So I look back at a lot of the earlier books that I wrote, not wrote, a lot of the lectures that I gave early on when I came into the lodge, and looking, like I said, looking back at those things now and rereading some of that, and putting that together, and also and reading some of those older books. A lot of it is someone's opinion on a certain aspect of the lodge. So yeah, I just always want to remind folks that, like, you don't have to be this PhD scholar to write about your experiences with the craft. All right.
Absolutely. I think, like you said, about how you use your tools. A good brother out of the jurisdiction of Arkansas, past Master Stephen Witherspoon, he always said that um, you're told what the tools are used for, but you're never given instructions on how to use them. And that's because everybody is not going to use them the same way, and that's what makes the organization speculative. Is when you're talking about improving yourself, everybody has different aspects on what they need to improve, and so it's not gonna, how Dave uses his tools. We all have the same tools, but we're using them different. You know, Dave may be more concerned about time. I may be more concerned about something else is and brother Caffey. So we're not giving instructions on how to use them because we're going to use them in a different way. The important aspects is knowing how, knowing what they're used for, and the fact that you're using them. You know, and so what in the way that we're using them and having the conversations gives us different perspectives and teaches us how, okay, this is how masonry is speculative. So as long as we're on the lines of improving and not deviating from what they're supposed to be used for, then then we'll always be going in the right direction. So
Indeed. Brother, just go to we have some real interesting comments and questions tonight, as always, during our show. So let's take a few. First up, definitely a friend of the program, Brother Ward Dally out of the great state of New York. His statement is, "We need more Prince Hall writers. There are never enough." I agree with you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dave need to stop playing and go ahead and put one out. We waiting on Dave's project.
Now, I think Dave is going to come out with a movie. He's going to bypass the whole book thing. He's going straight to the
Well, he's
brain.
already he's already a movie star, so
Right. Right.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Next question. Desmond Reed 3368. In reference to writing articles, who or how do we go about bringing it forth to the public to share with others? Does it start small in our lodges or local districts?
You know, for me, I would recommend starting small. And that'll give you a chance to tweak some certain things. So, so the first time you write or you present and you do it in your lodge, you may sit down afterwards and say, "Oh man, I could have added that in to make this better," or I could have shortened this portion because it didn't seem like it grasped everybody's attention. So I would say, yeah, start small and then work your way up. And you'll be able, by the time you get to the finished product where you're maybe writing or presenting for your jurisdiction, or you're writing for the flaxes, or uh, the bulletin for the Supreme Council, or the pyramid, your product will be almost flawless because you've already went through different levels and tweaked everything that you need to tweak.
Great
Absolutely.
advice. Yeah. Next question. This doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the topic, but I did just want to quickly address this question from this brother. It says, "I'm a mainstream Mason from New York. Can I petition a lodge in DC and still keep my New York membership?" That we would refer you back to your Grand Lodge to ask them to see if that would be possible. Next question. Oh, she different. 1922. I like that name. Are there agreed upon standards and expectations for Prince Hall teachers, researchers, and writers before earning the title of instructor? Good question.
Name sounds familiar. I think we know who that is, but
Yeah.
especially with the
Oh,
1922. Um, I don't know. I don't know if there are agreed upon standards or expectations. Um, do I think there should be? Absolutely. I am a person who has said and continue to say that the three most important aspects of all of masonry is who's teaching, what are they teaching, and how they're teaching it. Right. Um, not everybody should be teachers. I mean, um, that's just putting it out there as plain as I can put it. And I think I don't. This is not speaking for everyone, but I think there are some that sometimes are put into teaching positions as fillers, you know. And the question is, do they actually know what they're teaching, and are they teaching properly, or are they giving an opinion? Because you have to understand, when you bring in new people, those new people are gullible, right? So they are expecting the person who was teaching them to know what they're talking about, because what ends up happening is whatever you teach to them is going to be regurgitated, and it becomes a cycle. And then you ask someone, well, where did you learn that from? Well, this is what I was taught. That's where that phrase comes from, right? And then the next question is, well, who taught you? So um I think there should be a standard, and at least understanding the basics of what it is that you're teaching. Every jurisdiction has their own guidelines of what's taught to go through the ranks. But I do believe that there should be some type of standard in who you allow to teach, because once those incomers are now full-fledged members, they're representing not just your lodge, but your jurisdiction, your district, and your jurisdiction. And what are they going out there saying? So yeah, some I think there should be some type of standard or expectation.
Yeah. And for a period of time in jurisdiction of Georgia, we had Masonic College that was established by past Grant, uh, now past Grandmaster Willie Williams when he was in office. And the Masonic College was directed towards people who were looking to become worship master. It was a requirement, if you want to go become worship master in the jurisdiction of Georgia, that you had to attend and pass the Masonic College. Um, and there were a set standard that you had to complete in order to be a graduate of this college and move on to be eligible to become worship master. So yes, there is absolutely necessary that there be some sort of standards, when you're talking about a person that's going to be in front of somebody else and teaching them. Because if you don't have any set standards, you don't have any set expectations, you can have this person, as Damien just said, they can be up there regurgitating some any kind of nonsense. And now it just gets passed on, and you get these bad stories, you get these made up unwritten rules passed down, and it all starts from that person who was teaching never went through anything where he had to be adhere to the standard before he became eligible to teach.
And we also have to realize this too, that like Freemasonry is a microcosm of just general society in the world. With given the social media and everything now, and all of these different various podcasts out here, news shows, pseudo news shows, or whatever, everyone and I think that falls on us, where we think that if someone has a platform, that automatically makes them an expert. And I think it's changed, where like when it first started, it was like, well, no, but now I think as a society, we've accepted that if we see someone on TV, or if we see someone on our screen, and they're saying anything, that okay, it must,
Hmm.
I'm gonna put some stock into this because I'm seeing it. So I
Hmm.
think ultimately we're the judges of whether or not. I mean, I agree too. We should have. I think each jurisdiction, within a jurisdiction, should have some type of process. Um, but I think as an individual, we need to be able to say, no, something doesn't sound right. That's not clicking with me. Because again, anyone can create this. But it's whether or not you're receiving the information. What stock you're going to put into that. All right. Uh, Next, great question. Another friend of the program. Uh, what can one do if their books or articles are not read or received well? The only thing I would say is keep on writing. Keep on writing. Keep writing. Um, be able to take constructive criticism, when it's necessary, but also have that discernment to make sure that because I think that this happens a lot where you start writing, you start lecturing, you start presenting. A lot of folks may feel a certain way about it, and it's not necessarily what you're saying. It's that you're out there, you're putting yourself out there, and you're getting great reaction. So sometimes there may be some pushback from some folks, but um, keep writing. Keep writing. That's my thoughts, brothers.
I agree. First of all, Brother Caffrey, thank you for someone other than me reading the question. Hey, babe. Anyway, um, I do agree. I think important um, the most important aspect when it comes to writing is that you have to understand that when you're put something out, you're making yourself vulnerable, right? And I think a, a, a good number of people have a fear of being vulnerable and putting themselves out there because you're making yourself open to comments, critiques, and criticisms, right? So be able whenever whatever you put out there, be able to stand on what it is that you put out there, and that's one of the reasons why we talk about it. It's talked about a lot in the Phylactery Society as well. Having viable sources, because someone may not agree with what you're saying, but they can't disagree with the source that it came from, right? So, if you're here and you're just giving an opinion with nothing to back up, then you have nothing to stand on. But I wouldn't be discouraged um, just because something is not automatically received well. First and foremost, who is your audience? You have to think about who your audience is going to be. Maybe you didn't put uh, the right information out to the right audience. Is this audience someone that wants to read what it is that you put out? Um, is this topic something that they would be interested in? You know, um, is it something that we some people we get tired of redundancy, right? So is it something that's been touched on? I don't know, I don't know how many times, even though every year we find ourselves talking about the same thing in certain aspects, but unless you're gonna come at it with a different angle, are you gonna be are you just giving regurgitating the same information, or did you find something different as far as that topic? So you know but you're not going to bat a thousand. You're not going to bat a thousand. Look at, ask the proper questions. I think that's something that we as a society don't do a lot of at all. We don't ask the proper questions. We form opinions without asking the proper questions. So ask the questions. If it wasn't received, okay, the most important question that you can ask is why wasn't it received? Take from that and build on that. Just know that you're not gonna get hit a home run, right out the gate. It's trial and error. And that's why, like Dave and Brother Cav said, start small and then work your way up.
Yeah,
Yep.
and like how I guess add on what these brothers already stated. It may not be your article or what you're presenting at all. That may be the issue. They may not like you. So I don't like Damian Jack because he's an alpha. So I'm not going to receive anything that he puts out. So every time he writes an article, every time he puts out a book, I'm going to have something negative to say about it. And I'm not even paying attention to any other information that he actually is putting out. I'm just automatically rejecting it because I don't like him. So it may not be what your topic that they're not receiving. They may not like you, and that's perfectly fine. Keep writing anyway.
Hmm.
Just keep doing it because you're gonna have for every person that don't like it, you're gonna have somebody that will. And that information is gonna then continue to get passed on, and it may help somebody else. So whether they receive it or not, keep writing.
Yep. And those folks that don't like it, they will slowly and surely become a minority because you're going to build up
Hmm.
those folks that do. Another
That is the
great,
important thing. Consider the source. Always consider the source. That's a good one, Dave.
yeah.
And before we move on,
I'll go ahead.
we had a lot of people that didn't like the Prince Hall think tank when we started.
Yeah,
We had a whole lot of people that was against this,
yeah,
and we kept going. And now we're in our 11th season, so just keep pushing.
yep, yep. Excellent. Another great question. I think this is really, really important too, because again, we function within our own rules and everything, but we're impacted by what's going on around us in the outside world as well. Do you think AI will help or hurt writers? Who is checking the author's citing, and what should one do if you find something incorrect?
Hmm. I'm gonna say that it depends on the writer. Um, I I believe that it will in some ways it can help those who are still writing on their own and may use AI to like maybe refine a sentence, fine tune it or something like that. But it's going to hurt those who claim to be writers and use nothing but AI to put stuff out there, right? Um, and and you see that you have that. It when I just put out my latest book as I was publishing it, one of the things that as you're going through the steps to publish, one of the questions that is asked now that was not asked years ago when I published my other books was, um, do you have any AI generated content in this book? It asks that now. And for those who are self-publishing, it asks that question now, right? So, because I mean, they need to know, if something is incorrect. I mean, as brothers, we've been given the responsibility to correct the errors and irregularities. So, you would think that as brothers we will be able to do that, but also you have to be mindful if those who you are correcting are willing to receive correction, right? There are those who are not willing to receive that correction and think they know. You can only to endeavor to correct information. I mean, I'm pretty sure for as many years as Dave has been the grand historian, he is tired of correcting people saying who are saying that Dr. King is a Mason. He's tired of it, right? So and I say that because we just saw it as recent as last weekend, and I'm sure he's put out countless of information to discuss which one was and which one isn't, but that it keeps being put out there. So I think AI can be a great tool when you use it as an assist and not as a crutch. And I think you're going to have those who are going to use it as a crutch and then call themselves true writers when they're really not. So
Yeah, and it's going to be. I think if I'm being honest, I've been trying to figure that out. Like the play, and maybe who knows, that may be a future show well down the road. Like AI and Prince Hall Freemasonry. Like what's because every aspect of life right now is dealing with the usage of AI, like how they incorporate that. And I think we need to, as a fraternity, we need to ask ourselves that as well. Like, what's going to be the role of AI within Prince Hall Freemasonry? Because we
brother
can't run
Calf, we
from.
may need to have that sooner than later.
Yeah,
Um, when you have those AI generated videos that say, that African American men founded Order of the Eastern Star, When you say that, Prince Hall had a meeting with George Washington, and then you wonder why I put out the various videos where I'm just sitting there like this, like, is this really what we're doing now? And it's not just the fact of the information that's being put out there. It's those who are actually believing the information that's being put out there, you know, and
'Cause think
reposting
about
it
it.
and putting it out as law.
Right, because they really think about it. They're using like all of the information, like the videos that you just mentioned. It's it's old myths and different things, but now it just looks it's being told differently.
Hmm.
So it's like picture Grimshaw's book but animated. And again,
Right.
because we're seeing it on our phones, on our laptops, whatever, we're gonna put a lot of stock into it because it's that's the world that we're living in now. So as folks that like are trying to get the truth out there and different things, and Damon, I love what I personally I'm not on TikTok, like because it's just if I'm already like, look, I got to deal with the wife and the kids sending me 1,000 reels on Instagram like every day and trying to keep up with that. So like I'm literally one of those people like that. I look at TikTok reels on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm one of those, unks or whatever that do that. But I love like how you've like started using that technology to get the truth out there. And I think that's what we all need to do, instead of saying, oh, well, we're not gonna venture into that. And I can tell you, and this happened when I can remember when Facebook first, became popular, and it was this time period where we still had these Masonic listservs or like email lists where people used to. There was this real hesitancy of taking that conversation off of that medium and going on social media because some brothers were like, nah, I don't like that. I like this better. And a lot of those unfortunately died off because they weren't really ready to embrace this new technology. So I think the more that we can embrace it and use it, I guess, use it for the right purposes. But it's like it's all the old stories. It's just being told, in this new fashion.
And that's a great point that you brought up, brother Caffey, because I think we talked about that on a previous show with the blue light. What blue light was staying in that email listserv
Yeah.
and didn't really want to morph into social media. So, and if that would have happened, we might have a totally different conversation now about blue light. But as far as AI, what brother Jack said was on point. It, in my opinion, it can do a lot to hurt. And let's say you have this brother, he done put out 5, 10 books, but it's all AI generated. And now what usually happens, you put out books, somebody's going to ask you to come to their lodge, their lodge or district or whatever, and present. Then you're gonna have a brother like Brother Gillarm who read your book, and I'm gonna ask you, well, like, what, chapter 5? You said X, Y, and Z. Where did you get this from? And you don't have a clue because AI wrote it for you. So now you're gonna get exposed by you're not even writing this on material that you're taking credit for. So I think it would have. I can see if, like as Damien stated, maybe you don't know how to word a sentence. I'm gonna put this in AI, get generate to see how they would do it. Now now I got an idea of how they would do it. Now I can bring it back and put it in my own words. Because putting in something else may give me different ideas, or they may see it from a different perspective than I'm seeing it from. So I can see it as you said, a tool and assist, but not for as a primary. And I definitely wouldn't include it in any of my actual work.
Yep.
And not just going to the chapter 5, but chapter 5 and the page number in this paragraph. You said in this paragraph, in this sentence. What did that mean again?
Yeah. Yep. Last couple of questions, and I think this we touched on this a little bit. But what communication mediums can we use to increase membership, especially among the youth? I think what we just got through talking about as far as like TikTok, still Instagram and whatever else it's out there, staying current. The thing that I would say though is like also asking those younger members in your lodge as well, like what are you currently using, or doing that research as well, because if you ask me, I'm going to put you or tell you to use something that may not be, it may be popular but with a certain age demographic that we may not be trying to, not necessarily trying to attract, but that's not our target demographic for this particular what we're trying to do. So yeah, I think first finding out what mediums are out there, and then seeing if those mediums can be, because not all mediums can be, used or should be used, I think, and we still have to maintain the integrity of the craft as well. So I think, as a lodge, and even as a as a grand lodge, in researching this, you need to be like, okay, can we use this medium? Can we still maintain the dignity, integrity of the craft, and use this medium? I think if there's ever a question, then you don't use it. But if you can do it, with those younger brothers that you may have in your jurisdiction or your lodge, helping to lead the way, then I think that's just definitely useful.
If
Brothers,
you
what do you
look
think?
at, I think about when we had our good brother, past master Corey Mosley on, Carrie and Wheaton Lodge in the jurisdiction of Virginia, and how they use the different medias, TikTok and everything like that, to promote what's going on in different in their lives with lectures and things like that, and not necessarily giving you an audio version, but showing you, these are the things that's going on. Um, then that is a great way to use it. Not necessarily anything that's wrong with the mediums itself, but the people who use them. And I'll be one of the bold ones to say it, especially when we talk about bringing in, promoting and bringing younger members into the organization. Just because you go on to a medium and you see someone that has the square and compass on their profile picture, or their background, or their logo, doesn't automatically mean that you should follow them, right? Just because they have that emblem doesn't automatically mean they know what they're talking about. Just because they have that emblem doesn't mean that they automatically represent legitimate masonry, right? So what makes the medium dangerous is the fact that anybody can go on and say, "Hey, I'm this, and I do this, and so on and so forth." And because you see the emblem, you automatically want to follow. You want to follow them and have the preconceived notion that this person knows what they're talking about. As a good friend of mine who was on the show before, he once said, my good friend Jabron Jones, he said, everybody has a voice, but not everybody should have a microphone. And it's the same thing when it comes to the platform, right? Everybody has a voice, but not everybody should have a platform. So you have to be mindful of who you're following, and what you're following, right? Because they may be leading you down the wrong road. And again, just because and I've seen a lot, especially on TikTok. Just because you have an emblem doesn't mean that you have the ability to speak on masonry. Because I mean, you see it a lot, especially on social media. As soon as someone is fully initiated, they come out, "Hey, I am," but that doesn't mean that they know, that they can, properly speak on, the organization. So, the mediums itself are not bad. You just have to be mindful who you're following, and have make sure they have an understanding of what it is they're talking about.
Yeah, and it's and again, I think it similar to what Brother Jack said, it ultimately falls back on us as well, where like we have to make sure that we're checking ourselves. Because let's be honest, um, there are some folks out here where it's the sensationalism, that can exist within the craft and certain topics that's all they talk about. That becomes the basis of whatever show they have or platform lecture they're giving or whatever. um and it's in my opinion, it's hurting the craft. I used to call it like the Jerry Springer masonry, where it's like, yeah, that's the thing, but is that really the topic that we should really be pumping out there and putting out there to the public and to our members? So, but then that comes into a self check that we have to have as consumers of different things as well, and treat it with the respect that it deserves. All right. Last couple. I know I said the last couple of questions, but this one is actually getting back. A good question is getting back to the original presentation that Dave gave. Uh, I'm interested to know how Dr. Bass managed to slip through Prince Hall history as an esoteric writer unnoticed.
No, that is a great question. Um, Maybe because from what my research, he wasn't a past grandmaster. So what once you get those titles, people start attaching stuff to you. Your legacy gets out there. But the things that I found that he was doing in his life was monumental. Why wasn't it advertised more? Because this man just passed away in 2014. So we're not talking about somebody that died, in 1951. Uh, Quite a few of us were already Masons when he was still around in the Flaxen Society. Um, Another thing I found is that he was a dual member of the Grand Lodge of Connecticut. Like this man was something serious. I was just looking at another article that he wrote from 1985. Like this man was something serious when it came to Prince Hall Masonry, and maybe because he didn't have the same titles as other people, um, his stuff didn't get remembered, and he just somehow just got forgotten about. But that is a great question. But if I got anything to do with it, his memory will be brought back because his writings were amazing, and he also has a archive. Um, I think the University of Connecticut has it. He has tons of. I think it's called the Floyd L. Bass Papers. So he has a lot of stuff out there.
And I think one of the bigger questions too is, I'm sorry, and Dave, when did you say he died again?
2014.
2014. One of the questions we have to ask ourselves, like, who's around right now that's doing the same thing that we may not even know about? That like 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, someone who's ever doing this show then will be doing a presentation on this brother. And then like, so I think it's an important too, as far as identifying these brothers, and providing them platforms. And again, this is one of the reasons why we started the Prince Hall think tank, to give brothers the platform, and sisters, to just provide a platform for folks to let people know that, hey, we got some folks out here that's doing some great work. But again, also too, for those of us in our lodges, if you've identified these great folks, making sure that, one, that we're keeping up to date with the papers and different things that they're doing, but really supporting them as well.
Yeah,
And you
one of
have
those.
those authors. Oh, go ahead,
Oh, go
Dave.
ahead.
And I was going to say, you have those authors who who are out there, currently, who are putting things out. You have Michael Bailey, Past Master Michael Bailey, out of the jurisdiction of Oklahoma. You have Past Master Michael Williams. You have Past Master Worship Master Mike Epps, out of the jurisdiction of Florida, who just came out with two books as well. You have those who do put certain things out, but I think one of the things that is probably, I won't necessarily say glossed over, but when you talked about Floyd Bass, Dave, one of the things that you said was the fact that he was an esoteric writer, right? So and that's something that you have you have to talk about, and you have to um, you know for people have to understand esotericism is not for everybody, right? So a lot of people will look over those who have been great writers just because they have esoteric in the um in their description. You know, there are those who are still afraid of the word esotericism because of their lack of understanding of it, right? And again, understanding that the definition of esoteric is not for everybody. So it's not going to be for everybody, but everybody has their own lane. Just like history may not be for everybody, symbolism may not be for everybody. But the one thing that has been constant, and I think we've been we've talked about it for a long time. You have a lot of people who are afraid of the word esoteric and esotericism because of what their perceived notion of what it represents. And so, somebody who has put out a great plethora of work can be looked over just because of that, and you don't realize what you're missing because of that. You know what I mean? So that's just a thought that I have.
All right. Great conversation tonight, as always. Great comments, questions, as always, as well. So at this time, we'll start with our closing statements. We'll start with Brother Jack.
Oh, as always, I thank you for the greatest gift that you can give, which is your time, because it is something that you cannot get back. Um, we truly appreciate it, and for those who are looking uh, to write and to put something out there, the first thing that I will say is do not be afraid to be vulnerable. Do not be afraid. Write it down. You don't have to be. You're not going to come out automatically being the most prolific writer. Like it's not. That takes time. That takes practice. And even when you look at, you look at everything takes time. Like it took time for me to even get to the point of writing books or even writing multiples, and at the same time, I don't consider myself to be prolific, but I had to start somewhere, right? So don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and to put yourself out there, and have those common, those critiques and and criticisms, and that's how you learn to improve yourself. But there's so many things out there that's missing because we're afraid to write. And then there's so many things out there that we miss because it's written. We need to be and our good friend brother Wardali said it best. We need more Prince Hall writers. We need more. We need those who will talk about our history and put our history, have our history etched in stone, and talk about how we as Prince Hall Masons, how we feel about masonry. So don't be afraid to sit in front of that computer, or put pen to paper, and put it out there. So again, I appreciate y'all. I do want to say, I'm gonna say this because I know the missus is watching for a long time. I've gotten on her and her team, but congratulations to the Patriots getting back to the Super Bowl. I was shunned for a few hours because the team was playing, but They did win. They're going back to the Super Bowl. So let me get that, on there and in public, so I can go to sleep in peace. So until next time, we'll see you later.
Brother Gillar.
Patriots sound disgusting. Uh,
Well, tell her that. Tell her that.
because I know the hate is gonna come. At the end of saying what I gotta say. Uh, but as Brother Jay said, thank everybody for their time tonight. This is a topic that I love because we have a lot of great writers, and we had a lot of great writers over the years. Um, if you have the ability to purchase some of the old Flax's magazines, please do so. Some of them start around the 70s and through the 80s and stuff, and those they have some amazing articles in there. I was just looking at stuff about our good brother who's no longer with us, Ralph McNeil, had previously submitted to the Flaxes. I mean, it's some great stuff there. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Um, for example, like everybody look at me now that I'm a Grand Lodge historian and I've been doing this for quite some time. I was presenting long before I became the Grand Lodge historian. That broken column that we have erected at Pordell Cemetery, I did the research and presented that right after, I guess, toward the end, middle end of my second year as Worship Master. I was already presenting my lodge when I was junior warden. So, and the time I was junior warden, I think I only been a Mason for like 2 years. So don't be afraid to get out there, to put your works out there. If you need critiquing or need some help or assistance, I'm always here for anybody. I know Brother Jack is the same way. Brother Caffey's there. We got James Morgan, um, Curtis Black. You got a lot of researchers out there that will, or brothers out there that were willing to bend over backwards to help you. Um, so just don't be afraid. And I saw we have Brother Fields, Brother York from one of the greatest lodges in the jurisdiction of Georgia, the Mount Episcopal 153. I appreciate y'all for support tonight. Um, and I know y'all been watching the NBA. We had a little streak. We weren't doing so well. We just beat the New Jersey Nets by 56 points. I didn't get not a single text about when that happened. We just beat the Philadelphia 76ers the other night. So it's always go Knicks. It's gonna be our year. And see you all next time.
All right.
Winning the NBA Cup does not count. I just want you to know
Right.
that it
Right.
doesn't count at all.
Thanks, brothers. And again, thanks to our great guest tonight of the show. As we explored tonight, with Dave's presentation on Brother Bass, and then our subsequent conversations around the topic. The written word has long been a guiding light for Prince Hart Freemasonry. The brothers who put pen to paper challenged us, they inspired us, and they persevered and preserved our legacy for generations to come. And ultimately, that's what it's about. As far as just you're writing for today's audience, but you're also writing for those men that have not even come through the lodge yet. So the contributions remind us that Masonic thought is not static. It evolves, it grows, and it deepens with every idea that's shared, every lesson recorded, and every conversation is sparked because of it. So hopefully with this series, as we said earlier, we hope to highlight, those brothers, their contributions, their accomplishments to the craft. So before we end tonight, a very, very, very special thank you to the sisters of the Prince Hart Think Tank OES. They had their first show earlier this month, and we were honored to be the guest on that show. So please be on the lookout for that flyer, for their next show. They're going to do some dynamic things, and we support them 110%. So thank you all for your continued support of the Prince Hart Think Tank. And thank you for joining us this evening. And as always, let's continue to teach masonry in our lodges. Have a great evening.